top down.
Okay. What's happening? What happened on the Twitter Spaces? You popped in with Candace. What was the conversation? What's going on? What is she latched onto? What does she care? What is she trying to do? She feels that America has been taken hostage by Israel?
Well, I think from what I understand, it kind of...
So Dave is probably going to water down the seriousness of a conversation like that. I know why, but I'm assuming we're doing this together, right? But Candace has done a very good job of watering down that serious conversation as well. So if he does, I'm actually not mad at him for it.
Started. So she was over at the Daily Wire, and I do think this was, you know, like, and I don't know Candace like super well, but we've done shows together and we've hung out a little bit, and she seems to be very genuine to me.
Yeah.
But she, I guess, had just had a baby, and she's had, I think, several kids in a short period of time.
2, right?
I think 3.
Yeah.
But like, and so she had just given birth, and the war in Gaza kicks off.
By the way, guys, while he's trying to find his words, if you do like these videos, please keep hitting the like button, the subscribe button, the notification bell. Thank you guys for watching. I'm very grateful for every eye that lands on these videos. Thank you.
And she started talking on her show about like how heartbreaking the images of like all these dead kids in Gaza was. And I guess because it was a Daily Wire show and the people she was around were around her, and people started like flipping out at her, like oh, that Israel has to do this. How dare you criticize Israel, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, I'm just saying it's sad to see dead kids. And when she got that kind of pushback, I think that's her personality type, where she was immediately like, I'm doubling down on this now, and I'm going to really dig into this. And she got more and more critical of what Israel was doing and the Israeli kind of relationship with Israel, which there's a lot to criticize there the more you look into it.
Our relationship with Israel?
Yeah, the relationship.
What is our relationship? What is misunderstood about our relationship with Israel?
Well, okay, so John Mearsheimer, who's like just a total genius and one of like the, I think, the kind of leading world intellectuals on like foreign affairs. Like the way he put it, which I think is more or less right, is that it's unlike any other relationship between any other two countries. The relationship between the United States of America and the government of Israel is like they get unconditional support from us. We prop them up in everything they do, no matter what they did.
Yeah.
And no matter whether we want them to do something else, whether they do exactly the opposite of what we have. If we just go, hey, I know you've done these 9 things. Could you just not do this 10th thing? It's a real problem for us. They go, nope, we're doing the 10th thing. And we still fund them while they do it. And that's true for a lot of different reasons. But
Why?
Why? Part of it is because there's a very powerful lobby in the United States of America called AIPAC.
Yeah, what is AIPAC?
AIPAC is...
So everybody is staying stuck on AIPAC, right? And we should. We definitely should not let go of AIPAC, okay? So, you know, I let Dave explain things, and so now I'm going to add a little bit more to... Well, anyway, as far as Candace goes, yeah, she was pregnant and everything, but don't forget that Candace's last episode, which I think is still up somewhere on YouTube, she said that we all know in the media, this is Candace's words, not mine. She said, in the media, we all know that we are not allowed to criticize Israel, but not only are we not allowed to criticize Israel, we're forced to say good things about Israel, especially right now. You know, that's what she said. So this isn't somebody who just got pregnant and felt some type of way, though that was part of it, right? Maybe that helped her to wake up to the fact that, like, well, why do we do this, right? And so I'll say that, but she did make that point. Now, coming back to it with him being nervous about saying certain things, which, you know, listen, it's a lot. John Mearsheimer's book, The Israel Lobby, does talk about the Israel lobby. And you have to understand that what goes into the Israel lobby is not just AIPAC, because they said it in the book too. it's also part of the media. And in fact, if you go back and look at John Mearsheimer talk about the Israel lobby today, he's very, very detailed and meticulous about the media and how it portrays Israel and the low pushback to Israel. Okay. So, and John is not mincing words. And he said it's in fact gotten a lot worse than what he thought it was when he first wrote the book. Okay, and that book was written in 2006. And so we're in 2024. This is 2 decades, you can say. Never mind the fact that Pat Buchanan had made the statement that he made, I think a couple decades even before that. We'll leave that there. So now there's a lot that's encompassed into this situation. I mean, a lot. And he still feels uncomfortable talking about it, and that's fine. Because he is Jewish and he's not ready to go there yet. And I respect that. So I can get what I can get out of Dave Smith, but there's a lot more to it than just AIPAC, which is already big enough on its own. And so I think, though, that the reason that we're being allowed to talk about this, because I always not overthink, but I analyze the situation. I'm like, why all of a sudden are we allowed? By the way, the anti-Semitism bills, all of that, yeah, that's all part of the lobby too. What kind of lobby is this? Okay, so, and I'm like, well, why are we allowed to like, how is this happening, right? Why are we allowed to talk about this all of a sudden? And I think it's because we are in the middle of some sort of left-right, if you will, Zionist civil war that one side, there's so much more to it, I would say. And there's a left-wing side to it that would like to take down Israel, and I do think that that's why. I'll just leave it there for now. I'll leave it there for maybe a live stream coming up soon, just because there's a lot more than that.
Is the Israeli lobby, and basically
is that actually what it is? Or?
Yeah, it's the American Israeli lobby.
What does that mean?
So they'll say they're not a foreign lobby; they're a lobby of Americans. Lobby on behalf of a foreign country. So it's kind of like...
And are there other lobbies that are like this, like for Qatar? Are there other lobbies that are like this for Saudi Arabia?
Nothing like AIPAC.
Nothing like AIPAC. But there are other countries that are...
He's been fed the questions. Andrew Schultz acts like he doesn't know what's going on, but he knows to bring up the Qatar or Saudi Arabia, which, by the way, we do pay Qatar and Saudi Arabia to not bother Israel, if you want to know what that lobby is, right? So it still goes back to the same thing. Andrew Schultz, how do you know that? Oh, I don't know anything about this. But what about Qatar and Saudi Arabia? You see, this is what I mean. There's some sort of act happening here. I'll take it while I can get it, because we need to pay attention to this stuff. So I'll take it.
They certainly have. Yeah, there's business interests all around, but AIPAC is particularly powerful and is very good at getting people in a lot of trouble if they're critical of Israel. And on top of that, then you have this kind of widespread belief amongst evangelical Christians that the Jews kind of have to be in control of Israel in order for Jesus to come back and save them or whatever. And so,
boy, did that work out for the Jews, huh?
Well, if you listen to the evangelicals, it's not going to work out well ultimately. They get Israel for a little bit, but you're not coming along for this ride. Just so you know, that's not actually, it doesn't actually help you that much. But you better accept Jesus pretty soon.
They'll convert. If you see the J-Man come back, you got it, right?
Yeah.
Hey, if he comes back, I'll sign up.
Comes back. Let's go.
I'll tell you.
Let's go. Comes back.
Let's go.
Listen, I'll tell you, and you can, as a Jewish person myself, we are a stubborn people.
Okay.
And I can see a lot of Jews, like even if Jesus came back, just being like, no, it's all.
So let's have the conversation then. Thank you, Dave. Hey, we're bringing up the hard topics, aren't we? So let's have the conversation. I have talked to a lot of Jews who, when I say Jesus, some of them hiss at me. I'm not saying all. This discussion, it is insane. It's almost fun for me though, right? Like it is, because I'm like, yo, man, this is crazy. Some of the stuff that I'm hearing by a few people, right? They are a stubborn people, right? But it's fascinating. It is quite fascinating. I don't know, man. I don't know how much to even say, but it's just quite fascinating. But it's funny that he can say they are a stubborn people. He's okay to say we are a stubborn people. Now, if I say that, then I'm all of a sudden labeled, right? Okay. So anyway, coming back to it too. So like I said before in the last episode, we're gonna do this thing where now Israel is gonna be the problem of the Christians. Yes, there are a bunch of lost evangelical dispensationalists who think that Jesus is coming out of the land of Palestine. We don't know when Jesus is coming back. They need to stop. So then they send their tithes and offerings to, Israel, to the church for Israel. Literally, there's a church called like that. These people and Pastor John Hagee, he is something else to even lead these people down this direction. Okay, so I don't want to get all religious. That's a problem. But let us not act like there was a single Christian that was like, the Balfour Declaration wasn't done by a Christian as far as purchasing the land and making the Balfour Declaration. Okay, so let's stop. All right.
Oh, it's an illusion. But so there's a weird relationship where because of a lot of different circumstances, American politicians are kind of have an inability to put any pressure on Israel, but are required to support them.
So what are those circumstances? Again, I truly just don't know.
So,
you're lying. You do know. And I hate when people do that. I truly just don't know, but I'm going to bring up Qatar and Saudi Arabia.
I think this is important because this helps people veer away from anti-Semitism.
And I would say,
I want to be critical.
It always has, okay, all right, so, okay, all right. Let me just say this. All right, let me let Dave try to answer the question.
All that stuff is stupid.
I don't want to empower these fucking idiots.
And I think people are, I think people are insecure. I think they're insecure to ask even questions. No. No, but I think they're like concerned to ask questions because they're like, I don't want to come across as one of these people that I see are just blatantly anti-Semitic.
Yeah,
and I don't want to stay silent, giving them any ammo.
No, I listen. I completely understand that, and it's like.
Because there's no question there is an absurd amount of anti-Semitism online right now. But there are questions that are not anti-Semitic at all that we should be able to ask and get to the bottom of. Yeah. And like steel man the answers. Like literally give, what would AIPAC's best argument be? And like,
well, sure. But also if you don't, it's almost like if you don't ask these questions that are reasonable questions, then you cede the ground to the Jew haters, and those are the only people who are asking these questions. Right. And then they seem like,
and that's why I think this is
willing to talk
so
about
important.
That.
So
and this is how this turns into the black people talking again. To me, that's what it sounds like. Like, yeah, okay, let's make sure you ask the appropriate questions, and then if you don't ask them, then you cede grounds to the racists, right? What are the appropriate questions? Well, I'll tell you this, as a black person, if somebody asks me about my hair, I don't think that's racist. The next black person will. I can tell you 5, 10 black people will. I can tell you 100 black people will, right? So it's too subjective, okay? Here's the racist questions about any group. How do we end them and at what time? That's the racist questions. Or they're just dumb because they're that group. That's racist. And I mean, without like having a real race realism kind of conversation, but you know what I mean? Like just making some sort of, okay. But when we're asking about patterns and noticing patterns and stuff like that, no, that's not racist. It's not. Okay. And what he does there is like, this one talking about the reason, by the way, and it's important we have these conversations is so that the anti-Semites don't have the conversation, because we should have this conversation to help with stopping anti-Semitism. How about we just have the conversation because we need to know what the heck is going on in our government, and I don't have $350,000 in my back pocket to give my elected official after I've already elected him. I think that's why the conversation is important.